When I reflect on this season, the following values come to mind: caring, sharing, compassion, and sometimes a dose of tough love. We give of ourselves and we receive from others all year round. However, in this special season of giving, we have an opportunity to be more intentional and to be more reflective on what giving means to each of us. And perhaps we can do some tweaking or updating in our giving strategies. Giving, as I mentioned in meditation, first and foremost means caring for ourselves. This refers to both us as individuals and us as a community at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Jacksonville and East Nassau. I'll talk more about the congregation's self-care at the end of the sermon, but let's just start with a question for you. Remember when I asked you if you thought the universe cared about the election? It turned out to be a good discussion. There wasn't a right or wrong answer, but I have another one for you. It's not a trick question, but I want to see a show of hands here and in Jacksonville and in Vernon Beach. The Christmas song that says, "It's the most wonderful time of the year." Is it really? Is it the most wonderful time of the year? How many say yes? Raise your hand. Okay. How many say no? Raise your hand. How many are ready for the coffee hour? No. Okay. You know, for those with young children, the holiday season does not come with a pause on child rearing, right? It doesn't say, hey, parents, take a break. School's out, but you take a break too. And, you know, holidays, let your kids. Now, they still need to be fed, clothed, read to. In fact, when school's out, you have more juggling, right? Although it is great when you get to pass them off to the grandparents for a few days. As we get older, we can experience melancholy. Loved ones, very close ones, spouses, parents, children, good friends, have died. And so we're still here. And that can be melancholy for us. Traveling can be more difficult. The stress of hosting gatherings, and sometimes the stress of not being invited to gatherings as families and friends grow apart. And for some, let's face it, the holidays can be downright depressing. My neighbor's wife died on Christmas Eve. That was a tough time for him after that. And celebrating Christmas, it wasn't Christmas. It was the fact that his wife died on Christmas Eve. And so it was a tough time. But honestly, gatherings can be overwhelming. Commercialization can just drive us crazy. I don't have to give you the research and the statistics. You already know. But I do think that if we're more intentional, more strategic, more focused, and more able to say no, in the end, our attitude is what makes the difference. An attitude of gratitude for being both the giver and the gifted. After all, it's our attitude that determines how we're going to pass this holiday. And we really need to start about 3 weeks ago, but we're starting today. So I think the universe, the divine, God, however you define the transcendent or the more profound, does tell us something special about this holiday season. And I think it's a spiritual awareness that sometimes we as Unitarian Universalists aren't always in tune with, but I think we can listen to. So, for example, when Bridget said she was going to do a talk on Bodhi, right? The first thing I thought of was, for any of you that know hockey, was the hockey player. And I said, oh, you're doing something on the hockey player? No, I'm doing something on the Buddha. I said, oh, that's not Unitarian. No, I'm just kidding. I said, oh, that's great. But it was so funny that my mind immediately went, my nephew's actually named after the hockey player. So anyway, so we're not always thinking about that, but it is actually really important. So think of Kwanzaa, the 7 pillars that reveal the importance of connectivity. Unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. Those pillars all bring people together. For Hanukkah, we see the values of perseverance and hope. in the face of uncertainty and fear. In Christianity, we see a Christmas story that tells us that the divine is accessible. As God is portrayed as a son of a poor woman peasant and her carpenter husband. Now, we don't have to believe all the stories or the facts or the myths, but I do think if we took a moment to understand that message that the transcendent is not necessarily that far away, that we are not gods, we are not the transcendent, but we are part of the transcendence. That is something I think powerful for us to know, that we access the universe primarily through our own self-care and through those around us. If the divine is something as normal as someone who eats and drinks and celebrates and has sorrow, then I feel that we are connected to that transcendent. And I think that's what this holiday season tells us. Persevere. Get rid of fear. Be close to people. Be vulnerable. And set boundaries. The season of giving brings a gifter and a receiver together. Giving is mutual, with both the giver and the gifted benefiting. In fact, it's often said by the people who give that they get as much or more out of giving than the person who received. I want to invite 3 members of our community, and I'm giving Crystal a heads up. We're going to start with Monsell, who's going to be in Fernandina Beach. So we're going to put Fernandina Beach back on there. And I've asked 3 people to talk about their giving. We'll hear first from Monsell Phillips. She's speaking us from East Nassau, and Monsell and her husband, Robert Prager, help feed the homeless and the hungry. Our second guest speaker is Carlos Fraticelli. Carlos leads our church in collecting non-perishable goods for Arlington Community Service, in conjunction with all the fresh produce that we donate through Arlington Community Gardens. And then, last but certainly not least, is Sid Ryder. Sid leads our congregation in supporting the work that the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee does. This organization began with a couple who helped Jewish people and others being persecuted by the Nazi regime to escape persecution and death. It continues today to support the most vulnerable people around the world. Crystal, are we ready for Monsell? Monsell?
Good morning, everyone.
Let me turn the volume off.
My name is Abby Moss, and I'm reporting from Monsell McPhillips because she's recovering from a cold and her voice isn't quite up to snuff. So she's given me her report. And this is about our snack bag program here in Fernandina Beach. In spring of 2020, as the horror of the pandemic set in, and so many of our social services were disrupted, our friend Brenda Kane thought of the homeless neighbors whose conditions had become even more precarious. So she started making sandwiches. She took them to a nearby Church of Christ, where the Coalition for the Homeless offered services for a couple of hours each morning. Their food efforts were being reorganized, so any extra help was welcome. Brenda reached out to her circle of friends, and within days, 24 or so of us stepped up to help. We planned, donated, prepared food, and delivered snack bags to that church. During the worst, before vaccines were available, we delivered food and essentials 4 days a week. Munsell was banker and warehouse manager. A spare room in her house was piled high with individual portions of shelf-stable food, toiletries, rain ponchos, bandanas, and more. Teams emailed Munsell their shopping list for the week, and on the appointed day, it was on her front porch for pickup, supplementing with homemade fresh items, packaging into individual bags and delivery. We call them snack bags, but Abby calculated that we supply a full day's worth of calories, about 3,000 calories actually. Meanwhile, our member Joan Hawthorne knitted scarves, hats, and mittens all year long to deliver at Christmas time, which she still does. This work requires lots of friends. Fernandina UUs are generous, and we found a friend and partner in Brenda's church, New Vision United Church of Christ. About a year ago, United Methodist Church offered storage space and use of their gorgeous commercial kitchen to put the bags together. Nowadays, we deliver only once a week, but coalition members tell us that our Thursday deliveries are eagerly anticipated. Almost everything we deliver, sandwiches, muffins, salads, fruits, and vegetables, is homemade and as nutritious as we can manage. Our guests know that everything in their bag was prepared with love and care. The certainty that they are seen and cared for may be the most important gift we offer. Thank you.
How can I say, wait a minute, am I hot? Okay. A few years back, Marianne Van Heining, who was living in 2 locations, they have a house, I forget where they have a house, and she asked me to take over the food deliveries, the Arlington Community Services. And they're open from 9 to 12, and they pass out food to people. And they give them a full bag of stuff. So the little cart out there, we asked you to bring cans. Now, I want to tell you, when I see just 2 cans there, I'm really sad. When I see 20 cans, I'm a little better. But there's like 50, 60 people here. I expect 50, 60 cans. Okay? I do. You want me to be happy, don't you? I want to be cheery when I get, I go, oh, 60 cans. But what I usually do, Barbara and I donate also. My donation is usually 36 cans. 2 or 3 sets of bananas, 2 or 3 sets of mandarins, and 2 or 3 sets of apples. Okay, so I just want you, this isn't shaming now. Okay, I'm not into shaming. I just want to see more cans, okay? Now, when I get there, it's an interesting experience. All volunteers, okay, every single one except the staff, the 2 staff people, okay, and people picking up food. So occasionally, some big church comes with 3 trucks. So all of a sudden, you're moving stuff from trucks in because you were there when it happened. You know, I didn't get there to happen, and that's exciting when they come with the trucks. You know, so what are we going to do? More cans, right? Okay, thank you.
Hey, good morning. I'm Sid Ryder. And the reason I take on that UUSC every year, as Peter asked me, and I ask myself, why am I doing this again? but because there were 2 older women that inspired me along the way. And one was Mavis Green. She was a long-term member here. And Mavis was Jewish. And so she was inspired by who Peter talked about, the couple that went over and got children from before World War II. And it was a huge operation. There's a wonderful movie and documentary, so I think I'll work with Crystal and maybe we can get that because it's worth seeing. We showed it many, many years ago at another church. So it was very inspiring to Mavis, and Mavis took on this every year with a passion. I don't even know if I have the passion she had for it. She used to beg people to pay the $40 and become members, and I don't tend to do that because we do support a lot of groups over the year. So I sell the chocolates so you can do little amounts, and some of you still do really big amounts in the envelope, so I really appreciate that. And the other reason that I do it is that when I worked in the Dominican Republic, and that was in 2002 to 4, it was a private, very, very, very wealthy school, something I had never seen because I usually worked urban high schools. And this school in Santo Domingo had an art teacher who was sort of the lone voice who would speak up for the people of the Dominican Republic or the Haitians that were very prominent as workers all through that country. And they didn't always support her. The other teachers or the administration were kind of like, oh, that's Iro, just having her causes. But Iro was sort of Mother Teresa, and she saw a need and she wanted to do something. So on weekends, we would go up to her little cabin that she had in the mountains and work with the village kids and have art lessons and whatnot. But then she had a priest friend who was Haitian, and he was working in the Dominican Republic, but with the Haitian workers who were cutting the cane. Now, the cane they were cutting was for the rum companies that my wealthy parents, who were paying me to teach, were taking advantage of it, and those workers were treated so poorly. They literally are unseen. They hide them out in these areas called bateys, covered with sugar cane, so as you drive along, you don't even see them. So, the work is going on, but you never see the people doing the work. And they lived in concrete little housing, no facilities for latrines or anything. They had to go down to the river to get the water, and yet they were the workers. So, she would go there too, and we'd bring school supplies because we had a lot of extra at our school, and so we would do that. And she was just an inspiration. So this group that we support has about 50 groups around the world helping unseen people, and that's really important to me. So see me at the chocolate bar, and I have some pictures of the Haitian beités if you want to see them. Thanks.
Thank you, and I appreciate, I know Monsell couldn't be here in person, but the sharing is just 3 examples of stuff that we all do around our community, and that, to me, is just critical of saying, how do we share, how do we give? It is intentional, and to some degree, you fall into it. You don't necessarily seek it out. Like Carlos, it was Mary Van Heining, right? Carlos, someone asked him. Mavis, if those of you that remember Mavis, again, she asked and said, not the same passion, but a different passion. And that's okay. We all have the folder, and you actually can make sure you give before the end of the year because we put all those collections together for the service committee. And I think it's just, again, it's being open to that and knowing that you can't say yes to everything, but you can say yes to some things. And honestly, I did not know everything that was going on with the Fernandina group in terms of the commitment that they made, which is a huge commitment to give. And that is really important for me and for us to know that these are opportunities that we have. Now, giving is a lot of different ways. We also give of our intellectual and rational talents. We are trying to navigate and negotiate not just a holiday season, but a political environment that is something that we have to negotiate our values with others. And so when we connect, for example, the churches that are connecting with our Unitarian Universalist Church in Fernandina Beach, we're connecting on the values that we hold in common. And that's an important part of connectedness. So I think that when we think of us as human beings, that whether you're an introvert or extrovert, we do thrive on social connection. And the level of our social connection is really proportional to the level of our personality. But it's important to know that whatever your personality is, there's that level. Building and maintaining positive relationships and avoiding toxic relationships give us a sense of belonging and boost our mental health and longevity. So it's really a life-giving process to invest in giving and connecting. it actually gives us life. Prioritizing your quality time with your family and friends, engaging in meaningful conversations, avoiding conversations that don't make you feel good, and participating in social activities enhance our mental and emotional well-being. As the meditation reading expressed, you decide the meaningful conversations that you want to have. Don't get involved in useless arguments, but if you like constructive polemic conversation, come see me. No. Find those avenues. And believe me, no one has any problem telling me what they think. Go for it. Just make sure the other person feels the same way about it. We prioritize face-to-face interactions. That's important for us. Joining or rejoining a favorite club, attending workshops, going out for that concert that you're saying, oh, I'm tired. Find somebody to go with, and engaging with regular catch-ups. If you're disconnected with someone you want to reconnect, reconnect. It's vulnerable, I get it, but you can try. Some of the ideas that I like, they're not exclusive to Unitarian Universalists, but these came from Reverend Tim Dombeck in his work, Confront the Consumer Culture and Be a Forward-Looking Church. He said, achieve debt-free living. He said, if you can work on not being stressed about your finances, and finances from young people to old people, it's still finances. He says, if you can relieve that somehow, reprioritize things, you can be less stressed, and it will give you a more opportunity to be physically and mentally healthy. Practice voluntary simplicity. Simplify your life. Just remember that in Fernandina Beach, when that person receives that bag of 3,000 calories, that is what they need and have for the day. They may not know what's there for tomorrow. We pretty much know what we're going to have tomorrow, and that's good. But if we can practice simplicity in our life, not just financially, but of clutter, distractions from what are your true priorities, that's important. And that means sometimes saying no, because I need to be here. I can't be there. I appreciate today the choir practice because of our congregational meeting had to come at 9:30 in the morning to serve. So they changed their focus on a one Sunday to be able to do that and not be distracted from the congregational meeting. We give ourselves the gift of physical, spiritual, and mental health. So January and February are the busiest times of the year for the local gyms. But those of us that are kind of regulars know that by March 1st, we'll be good. They will all be gone. And what happens is life happens. And all of a sudden, it's like it's not as crowded. And so even though physical exercises are a great determinant of mental and spiritual health, you may not be able to do full aerobics or yoga, but you can do chair yoga, you can do water aerobics, there's plenty of home exercises. But the fact of the matter is, making those commitments and focusing on ourselves are important. Service projects are important. The gift we give to our planet, the planet that actually, let's just say, birthed us as humans and sustains us, and is the cradle that we rest our head in every evening. So, Jeannie's husband, Jay Huebner, used to say, think of the coal trains coming to Florida. When you turn the light on, more coal trains come down. Turn the light off, less coal trains come down. So we have an opportunity to help save our environment. Picking up trash, recycling, these are all gifts. Now, I talked about tough love. Some of you remember the book, The Giving Tree, right? And at The Giving Tree, I always think of grandparents and a grandkid, right? But if you don't set limits, what happens? There's nothing left of you, right? And so we can definitely be overstretched, overtaxed, overspent, and we can burn out. So that's why we set boundaries. I had friends who had 3 grandchildren, 3 wonderful and active boys, and they had the 6-hour rule. If they had one of the kids, they would kid sit for 6 hours. If they had 2, they would take 6 and divide it by 2, so they would have 3 hours. And if they got all 3 dropped off, they would have 2 hours. And the parents knew, if you're dropping off 2 kids, you better go to a short movie. And they could make some exceptions, but the boundary was there, and it helped everybody. So caring for others and caring for our world starts with caring for ourselves. I really mean it. If we take care of ourselves and take care of our church, things will work themselves out, much of which we don't control, and we think we do. What we do control is our own attitude and actions. I want to talk a little bit about our church and our national association, particularly some of the things that were done at the last assembly. You know, when external threats occur to a group, they tend to, in the old days, circle the wagon, get together, fight whatever's doing them. But when internal dissension occurs, an organization can implode. And, you know, it's often that internal conflict causes the demise of an organization more than external conflict. And my personal opinion is that there were actions in our National Association that instead, whatever their motivations, which I don't judge, but instead of bringing us together to a new future, I think did cause some dissension. And we've experienced that here. And so as we look at it, our task force last year and our Forward Together, we take a rational, open-minded, and democratic process to educate ourselves on the issues so that our entire congregation can make good decisions about what's best for us to ensure our independence and viability. We are not perfect. We will never be. So during this holiday season, and as you know in a sermon or a service, we do not strive for perfection. We do strive to be the best that we can, and that's important. But I want to say, as we go forward, it's important to be gentle with ourselves and with each other. When something goes wrong or not even totally right, I would be the first one to say, tell me, I can never be a better person if you don't let me know. Our board works hard, our staff work hard, everyone here works hard. Both our foundation, our finance committee worked hard with our budget that you'll see, worship committee, membership committee works hard. Everybody does. Our Fernandina group works hard, as you see, not only to find a new location, but to serve the community there. And you know what? I think we have fun doing what we're doing. Now, is Tom Larson here? Tom, do you have fun doing the budget? See? And Elizabeth's here. I think, yeah. They're the only two that have fun doing the budget. I get it. No, but no. So, you know, these are not easy things. But I want to say, in the holidays, reach out to your family, your friends. Stretch yourself when you can. But feel free, each one of us, to set our boundaries. Feel free to consciously avoid toxic situations. You don't need to recover for 3 days from a toxic situation. Get yourself premeditatively thinking, this is what I'd like to do, this is what I'd like to not do. I want you to feel empowered to say, that's not something I want to talk about today, and that's okay. Above all, I want you to take care of yourself, and everybody will appreciate a happier you, believe me. Yes? Yes, I think so. So if you're happier, the people around you will be happier. It's mental, it's physical, it's spiritual. Remember this time that all of the faith traditions connect us with the transcendent. We may not believe, again, all of the stories and all of the myths, but there is something to be said about being more closely connected to things that we think are so far away. And we connect by connecting with each other. I just want to say that the holiday is truly about gratitude. You know this, but I want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you. It is your energy that gives me energy to fulfill you with my heart and mind. So thank you.